Thanks for tuning in and welcome back to the shop. If you're new here, this is our 2013 Mitsubishi Fuso FG that I'm slowly turning into an overland camper. Now, if you've been watching the channel for a while, you can probably tell that I sound sick. And I am. So let's get inside where it's warmer. Over the last couple of episodes, I've been working on the pneumatic system that's going to end up lifting the bed. Right now I'm stuck waiting on some fittings that I've ordered, so today I'm going to go back to finishing off some items to finish up the shower pan. Okay, maybe not finish, but we'll get it a little farther. If you recall the episode where I built the shower pan insert, you remember why I stopped this before the end. And if you don't recall, well, it's because it tucks underneath here and I need to be able to tip it to get it out, which I can't do if it's underneath the fridge. So by making the last couple of inches a separate piece, it's easy to take the wooden part out and leave the other part of the floor in. You're probably asking, why does the fridge overhang the shower pan? Well, there's really a couple of reasons, but let's just say, most importantly, it's because it allows the shower pan to land on one of the floor frames, which lets the floor end in the right spot. It also gave me some adjustability in where the wall for the collapsible shower wall ends up. And if you've ever had a fridge or freezer defrost, you know that water runs out the bottom, and if water runs out the bottom and I have the fridge sitting on a pan that overhangs the shower pan, the water will run from the fridge to the fridge pan, from the fridge pan to the shower pan, and then the shower pumps will pump it out to the gray water tank. Long story short, the fridge overhangs the shower pan. And being that this part of the floor structure is going to be a little bit more permanent, as in I'm not going to be able to just lift it out and clean it or replace it because it'll be underneath some of the structure, I didn't really want to make this part out of wood. So you can probably guess what I did. If you haven't guessed that I 3D printed a part, well, you haven't watched enough videos on this channel. And now you might be saying, how did you print something this big on your little printer? Well, first things first, I drew out the wood floor so that I could replicate the wood and all the spaces. With that sorted, I drew what I wanted to sit under the fridge as one big piece. You can see that it has some drain holes in it and it fits in with the ends of the boards. It also has a taper to it so that it fits the slope of the pan. Next, I took this and brought it into the slicer. Now, clearly it's not in one piece anymore, and that's because I used the cut button, which allows you to select a spot to cut your part, as well as adding in a dovetail. By doing this twice, I ended up with 3 parts that I could fit on the build plate. With that sorted, I hit print, and a few hours later, after getting the first 2 parts, I hit print again for the smaller one. And with that printed, installation should be pretty simple. I just need to move the fridge. So now it's just a matter of dropping this perfectly made precision piece into place. And this is where I'll run into my first problem. You see, I knew the width of these, and I knew the width of the spaces, and I knew the width of the total, mathematically. Of course, what I didn't take into account was that some of these spacer blocks are a tiny bit narrower or a tiny bit wider, and being that it's made of wood, not all of these are perfectly straight. Which means we've ended up with some misalignments. Of course, I did think about this when I was designing the part. I just didn't think it was going to be this big. So what I should have done was made these open spaces significantly wider. But here we are now. Now, being as most of them are pretty close, I think what I'm going to do is taper the ends of all of the pieces of wood so that they'll fit into where the notches are. Having a taper on the end of the wood will make it easier in the future to slide the piece back in anyway, as aligning square corners with square corners that are perfectly precision is not going to be the quickest or easiest thing to do anyway. I probably should have thought of this earlier on in the design process, but sometimes you don't see things until you try to put them together. So effectively what I'm doing, you can see on the pencil marks here, is just trimming the edge of each of these down to a bit more of a point. The quickest way to do this, with a grinder and maybe a fresh battery. I'm using an 80 grit flap disc and it's burning the wood a little bit, which, to be honest, I kind of like the look of. I might just have to do this to the entire top surface. And now for some left-handed grinding. In reality, this probably would have been quicker on the bandsaw.
All right,
Like I don't sound bad enough without that on. Let's see how it fits. Now the shower pan itself is not actually attached yet, so everything's just kind of floating, but for now we can still do this part of the fitting. Moment of truth. There we go. All right. For now, that can just sit in place. When I go to do the permanent install with the fridge on top of it, I'll throw a couple of dabs of silicone or something so that it'll stay in place, but if I need to, I can still remove it. Now, before I put the fridge back, you've probably noticed we have a bit of a gap between the edge of the floor and the shower pan. I don't really want water going underneath the shower pan, so clearly we need something to cover that up and kind of trim it so it's got a nice finish. Now, because this is a bit of a unique design, we have a stainless steel shower pan that's sunken down through the floor. It's not like you can go to your average hardware store and pick up the right trim for this. Or can we? This is a vinyl stair nosing, and I think if we flip it around and slide it in here, we can get that to do a really nice job of trimming the edge, making it watertight to drop into the pan and not sticking up too much on the floor. Of course, nothing is quite that simple. I still need a way to attach this, and I also have to trim it because the shower pan comes up on an angle. But if I trim this between the second and third rib here, I should be able to just cut along here with a pair of good scissors. That'll actually give me enough coverage down at this end and not be too deep at the shallow end. So between the second and third rib, decent pair of scissors, go as straight as we can. Nice and easy. The nice thing is this cut edge, which you can see basically I'm removing the last, I don't know, inch. This cut edge is going to be at the bottom, so even if it's not perfectly straight, other than everybody on the internet, nobody's going to see this. I don't really chew my tongue when I'm doing that, but I know some people who do. It's not the easiest stuff to cut, but it's also not the hardest stuff to cut, and that's probably the easiest way to do it. Now with two pieces trimmed down, I can start my corner. Because I have a 90-degree corner here, I'm gonna have to miter both of these on a 45. Pretty straightforward considering it's just a scissor cut. A quick markup with a pen gives an accurate 45 degrees. Well, I don't know if this was by dumb luck or total fluke, but when I mitered the second piece here and trimmed it to the right size, it's actually exactly the size of the piece that I need to go from here to the back corner. So we now have all the pieces that are needed to finish this up. One of the big questions that stopped me from doing this early on was how was I going to attach this? Because I don't want to make it so that I can't get the pan out after I attach the trim down. Because I can pretty much guarantee if I did that, I would need to get the pan back out again. So I needed something that would permanently hold it in place, but was also easily removable. And that's when I had an idea. Now what you're about to see is completely an experiment. I have no idea if this is going to work, but I figured it's worth a try. That's right, I'm going to throw some Velcro at it. Right after I peel all this painter's tape up, it's been here for a long time, but it seems to be coming off reasonably. Now before I pull 6 feet of Velcro off the roll only to find out that it doesn't work, I'm going to start with the short piece at the far end. Now the real question is, do we stick the fuzzy to the floor or the fuzzy to the trim? I'm going to go with this one. Fuzzy to the floor, teeth to the trim. I'm going to stick the Velcro right along the very edge of the floor. which I think puts the hook side about the middle of the trim, but it'll allow me to have some in and out movement to adjust. If I put it in the middle, it's probably not quite tight enough, but if I pull it back a little bit, so a little bit more towards this edge, that'll give us a nice tight fit against the shower pan. It also keeps the bulk of the Velcro back from the edge, which allows the edge to come down and sit nice and tight with the floor. Wow, it gets a lot quieter in here when that heater's not running. All right, I've got the first piece of Velcro stuck to the back of the short piece of trim. And as a test fit, it looks like it's gonna work perfectly. It's gone around the edge here. I've actually been able to pull it back nice and tight, and it comes right down to being flush with the floor here. I don't know if it's gonna stay like that over time, but that seems to be working, so I'm gonna do the rest. I'm impressed with how sticky the adhesive is on this Velcro. Even just a light touch to the surface, and it needs some real force to pull it back off. It's even sticking well to the vinyl. Huh. I'm pretty happy with how that's come out. I was hoping it would work, but I think that's worked really well. I do need to do a bit of a retrim at the seam here and possibly a little bit here just to tighten this part up. I can trim a bit off the back here. And ultimately what I like to do is actually glue the trim together there so this whole L shape becomes one piece. So if you know of a trick to glue, I believe this is PVC together, let me know in the comments. Now before I stick the fridge back in place, I do need to use a bit of a spacer here right now because I had planned on making sort of a pad for the fridge foot to land on so it doesn't fall through any of these holes. I haven't made that yet, so for now, I'll just stick a piece of plywood there. Now that I've got the trim and the floor into the fridge sorted out, there's one more little thing that I want to take care of today. You may have noticed that I've got these two cylinders in place, but I don't have that one or this one. And that's because when I went to install those two, I ran into a little bit of an unexpected problem. When I went to put this cylinder in place, I found that it actually sat a little bit higher than it should have. And I don't mean the bracket held it up, it actually wasn't going all the way into the base. Now this is upside down, but what I mean here is when the cylinder went into the base, there was a bit of a gap, as in it didn't go in all the way. And I thought, well, that's weird because I printed 4 of the same part. They should all fit. And that's when I found out that this structural kind of webbing in here was at a different depth on 2 of the cylinders compared to the other 2. Which is strange because I ordered all 4 from the same place at the same time, but regardless, needs to be fixed. So my mind went, great, now I've got to mill out the extra couple millimeters on each of those webs, and it's a really small space, and it's not really going to be fun. But I headed down to the basement to the lathe. The drill maybe? I don't think either of those will work. And then I realized, actually, it's a really easy fix to just lower the raised section on the part. So I drew a line that matched the measured depth on these 2 cylinders and pushed the surface down. I said push the surface down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Oh, SketchUp. But with that 2-second modification out of the way, all I had to do was reload it into my slicer, adjust the settings to be the same as the last time I had printed the parts, and then slice it and check it. And then hit print. The best part about this fix is that it happens while I'm doing other work on the truck, so it takes me literally no time. So now with the modified base, it goes all the way on. And that means I can swap out the old bases for the updated ones. And then drop the cylinders in place, which now should both fit properly. Remember earlier when I said, this is where I'll run into my first problem. That wasn't meant to be foreshadowing, but I'm not sure how I've done this, but I've glued this bracket to the wall 1 inch too low. That should be there. It's still all gonna function the same way. It's more annoying than anything else. And it's not like I can change it. I think I just figured out what I did. I was using 1-inch wide masking tape, and I bet you I went to the opposite side of the tape from what I was supposed to do. That explains it. Yeah, it's not gonna affect how it works. It's still gonna do exactly the same thing. It's just annoying. Well, I've still got a long way to go, but that's a couple more things that I can cross off the list. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, make sure you give us the thumbs up, and if you see it, hit the hype button. Make sure you check out the links in the video description if you're interested in any of the stuff that I've been using. If you haven't already, consider hitting the subscribe button. There's lots more content like this that I've already posted and more that's coming. Most importantly, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.